Welcome to the Valseth View.
Welcome everyone to the Valseth View. Today we're going to be talking about the legal operations or the legal side of what Valseth Enterprises provides. So we're going to look at Dragseth and Associates, and we're going to look at what are some of the things that we work on that have legal things about them that we want to kind of talk about.
So Carolyn, what made you get into legal and compliance? Because I would think that those are two separate fields.
Well, actually, what I have found is over the course of time, I find that legal and operations are kind of getting closer and closer together. And I think a lot of that has to do with the advent of information technology and how now we can kind of check on everybody and look at everything. And so for the legal side, we see people on the back end, usually when they've already got some kind of an issue. And the formation of Valseth Enterprises was something where I thought we can provide a client with a pragmatic approach. It's a more business, more friendly approach where we're trying to catch things before you have to hire a lawyer. So when we talk about Dragseth and Associates or the brand suite, what we're talking about is we have Dragseth Law, and we also have Dragseth Title Forge, which may seem like a little bit odd, but I do find that clients who are in business kind of also need that need for real estate assistance. So we've got both of those areas that we talk about. And like we mentioned initially, the pragmatic approach that we take is kind of a bottom line. What's the best value for a business or for a company when they come to Dragseth Law? So when we talk about Dragseth Law, it's a core legal practice that focuses on high stakes, transactional, and regulatory law. So what we're looking at is things like we've discussed in a lot of these podcasts, the regulations that surround government contracting and how those things are important to businesses. We've talked a lot about contracts and how do you draft a contract. So we do a lot of contract review, especially when we're talking about things like contracts between parties, teaming agreements, different things that you need assistance with in that way. And then we also have intellectual property, which often arises in the course and scope of business. Someone has invented something, someone is written something that they want to have protected. We've even talked as a team about some of the things that we're going to be producing that we have to have copyright protection for. So all of these things tend to kind of fall into an overview or an umbrella of all of the different things that Dragseth Law does. So when we talk also about government contracting and compliance, because I know that's something that we work for a lot of our clients with, it's kind of a niche specialty. Wouldn't you agree?
I do agree with that, yes.
Yeah. So I think that when we talk about that, I think that our pragmatic approach of kind of blending the idea of compliance with legal services is really important. It gives people an opportunity to kind of catch a problem before it actually becomes a problem. So that's where the idea of compliance legal operations, it all blends together, and we are trying to provide an overview or an overarching solution to all of our clients. I think that when we talk about Dragseth and Associates, it's kind of an integrated professional services umbrella. So Dragseth Law specifically looks at, did you get yourself into trouble? Do you need a lawyer? How can we help you with an issue that may become something that you have to go to court about? Or how do we protect something that you've invented in the course and scope of your business so that we can make sure that we're providing you with all of the assistance that you need? We also do what I would consider to be client-centric advocacy. And what that means is we're looking at the client and that business as a whole and trying to find out how can we advocate for them? How can we make sure that they're receiving the best legal protections that they can get? And then we do strategic partnerships with companies like Clark Synergy that we just discussed in our previous episode. We are a joint, Valseth Enterprises is a joint venture, and we had Valerie discuss the compliance arm last time, and now we're talking about the legal arm and where are some of the potential pitfalls that clients can get into. So a lot of different things that come to mind when we talk about specifically client-centric things are things like contracts. And do you think that a lot of times businesses enter into contracts without taking that initial breath or pause where they should kind of have a lawyer take a look at this first before we sign the document? It's very important. So, contract review services is something that we do on a perpetual basis, not only when we're talking about when we're helping a client prepare an RFP response, but also if the client is entering into a lease with someone, if the client is looking at the purchase of commercial property and they want to have someone involved in all of the review of all of those documents. So that was what gave birth to the idea of the Dragseth Title Forge, was because I think a lot of times, especially when you're starting out as a new company, you want something that is yours, that belongs to you as a company, but that's a big step to take. And it is something that you have to consider kind of thoroughly. You have to look at all of the benefits of where you're currently located. Are you using a co-working space, or are you using your own space? Are you sharing space with another business? Because all of those things are very important things to consider. So when we talk about the title forge, we're doing the title and settlement for it. So we're doing it kind of all inclusive. So not only are we looking at what kinds of things do you need to think about when you're purchasing real estate, but we actually facilitate the entire transaction, including the actual writing of the title insurance. So I think that that's something that's important here in the Baton Rouge area. We've seen a lot of growth in and around Baton Rouge, and throughout the state of Louisiana. We've seen, the data center, the AI data center that's being built up in northern Louisiana. We've seen a lot of growth here in the Baton Rouge area with the steel factory that's coming in. So we're seeing a lot of people who are saying, hey, there's a lot of stuff happening in Louisiana. How do we participate? And I think that Valseth Enterprises is uniquely positioned to help you navigate through all of that. I do think that unlike a standard law firm where they're going to look at one piece of what you have going on in your business and they're going to say, okay, that's enough. I don't need to know anything else. I don't do that portion, or I don't do that. What Dragseth Law tends to do is to look at you as a client as a whole, and we try to come alongside your business and help to support you. I think that we have something called the Fractional In-House Counsel model, which we've discussed with a lot of our clients, which basically says to them, hey, if you have legal needs and you don't have an in-house counsel, you can pay a monthly fee. You get a bucket of hours from Dragseth Law. And what we do is we help you with what we can help you with in that position. I think that as companies grow and they become larger and larger, we've seen kind of them break apart on that legal aspect and go and get their own attorney, which is fine, because what we want to do is encourage growth. So that fractional in-house counsel program really does a lot for small to medium-sized businesses, helping you to get off the ground, helping you to get the guidance that you need and the information that you need to continue to grow. And then the other thing that I think Dragseth Law specializes in that I think is very important is we look at emerging sectors. And so there are two main areas where we talk about emerging sectors in business. One of them is the AI and data centers, which we've mentioned previously. And we like to not only help with large companies that are working in AI and or doing things specifically around training their AI models, but we also like to look at small business and helping them to learn, how do you capitalize from having AI as being a part of your day-to-day business practice. Now, I will caveat that by saying we look at it specifically as to assisting you in how you can use AI within your business. And I think that that's an area where a lot of people get glossed over. There's big companies that have AI. There are people who are trying to sell you licenses to the AI that they've already built. But let's say you're a small company and you say, I really want this AI to work for me. We help you to develop the prompts. We help you to develop the AI so that it can be something that really does help you in whatever area you're working in. And I know that for those of you who come to watch our podcast often, we had a whole discussion about how do you train the AI to kind of be an expert in your business. And so that's one of the key areas of emerging law where we're working with our clients to help them to, one, take advantage of it, and to avoid the potential pitfalls. So that's one of the reasons why our continued tip that we've talked about on multiple different occasions is the fact that you should have a private instance of your AI. And I know that it is very important to distinguish between private and public, not only for the purposes of growing it so that it's your business specific, but also you want to avoid things like something that you have that is proprietary become discoverable because you by accident let it go out into a public instance of AI. So we want to make sure that we think about that. And then the other area where Dragseth Law is really thinking and being progressive is in the area of space law. And I think that the reasoning behind that for us is the fact that space is kind of the Wild West of our time. A lot of our businesses have come to us and they've asked about, how do I get into the space industry? How do I I want to research something, but I need it to go into space. How do I do that? And we've taken a lot of time working not only on the compliance side, but also on the legal side of what do you need to have in place so that you can participate in those unique opportunities. And we want to continually encourage our clients to grow and to shift into those new areas of law. So those are kind of the two big sweet spots that I would say are emerging things that we have thought about and that we're building towards in the future.
So if you were to advise a new client who is asking about AI and intellectual property, what are some things that you would want them to know up front going into either one of those realms in their business?
Okay. I think that if I had a new client that was talking specifically about AI and the legal implications of AI, one of the things that I would talk about is the fact that the protections directly align themselves with what the human is doing in the mix. So a lot of those protections are surrounding the prompts that you develop in order to make your AI better for you. So one of the things that I would talk about with clients is, how do you monitor and control the training process of your particular instance of AI? Because you want to make it be an expert in the things that you do, not an expert in the things that other people do. And I think that if I had to kind of guide into the compliance aspect of it, it would be the data protections and the things that we want to make sure that they have in place surrounding whatever development they're doing on their own. I think that most small businesses fear the use of AI because they don't know how to do it. And my response would be, talk to us about the setup process, because then you can grow it on your own organically and it can do what you specifically need it to do. And I know that we've advised several clients when they're talking about AI, what we've told them is, you want it to understand how you do business, not how another company does business, but how your company inherently does business on its own. So I think that when we talk about AI and the implementation of AI, those are some of the legal things that I really think need to be kind of cued in on, that you need to make sure are going to occur in each instance.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, one of the things that I want to talk a little bit about that we've kind of gone over a little bit is, what is the pragmatic business approach? I know you've heard me say it at the beginning of this, and you say, well, what does that mean? Because a pragmatic business approach sounds good on paper, but what does that actually really mean? And what it means is that lots of firms focus on the idea of risk avoidance. They focus on what particular issue you've brought to them as a client, but they don't look at what are some of the things that you can kind of put into place to make sure that you don't, one, have like a merger and acquisition deal stall on you, two, that you're going to make sure that you're ready for whatever you're doing. I know that Valerie in her compliance portion talked about how you should be getting or thinking about compliance before you're actually receiving the award in government contracting. You should know about it before. So I think that the pragmatic business first mindset for us is the fact that we look at businesses as a whole, and then we look at how can we come alongside you with business and legal acumen, compliance acumen, that we can do a value add to your business for. Because I think a lot of companies have good ideas, but where they fail is they don't look at the bigger picture and the overall picture as a whole.
Right.
So I think that we work with the company saying, okay, not only are we going to look at the compliance aspects of what you need to do, but we're going to look at how did we make that be a part of your day-to-day operations. And we look at what are some of the legal pitfalls that these kinds of businesses may have, so that you've addressed them within your policies before it ever becomes an issue for you. So what we're looking at is we're looking at being the pragmatic business approach to helping you grow successfully. And I think that in that area, it's a big divide between being a small and medium-sized business and then growing into that large business.
Mhm.
There's a big leap of kind of dead
Mhm.
space there. And I think that that's where a company like ours comes into really aligning ourselves with you and helping you to grow. Some people want to, I don't want to say steal, but appropriate other companies' ideas. That is not what we intend to do. What we want to do is we want to help you grow. We want to help you make sure that your business adds value in this particular sector. And we want to make sure that you have everything that you need so that you are able to grow successfully. So I think that our pragmatic business approach is based upon the fact that we're your friendly advocate. We're the company that you can turn to where you say, I need help with, and then we provide that assistance.
I was just going to add that personally, I think that's one of the funnest. My mother would probably die with that.
It's okay. She was an English teacher for those of
Yes,
you who
yeah.
don't know.
Is that we both enjoy looking at, talking about, researching, figuring out new ideas, new processes. We actually enjoy that process, whereas some companies may not.
Mhm.
And I think that's a strength of ours because, you can depend upon us to be thorough with it. We're not just going to do the very beginning due diligence for as far as you think about it, but we're going to do it because we enjoy it, number one. And number two, we know how to do it.
Mhm. And I think that that gives the business an opportunity to have that safety net underneath it, where if you're trying something and it's not working, you can come to us and we can help you to work through some possible pivots. Because I think that it's very important to be flexible when you start a business, because you may start it thinking that you're going to be a company that develops A, and at the end of the day, what ends up being successful is the line of business that is line of business D for you at this
Right.
particular juncture. But you do that so well that that becomes what people come to you for. And I think that we've seen that kind of flexibility demonstrated across the business industry over and over and over again. We've seen large companies that when they started out, they were going to be something smaller and they grew into something larger. So I think that that's really important. And I think that the other thing that we try to help with is the fact that we try to think about and work from the perspective of some of the underrepresented groups within entrepreneurship. I think that everybody understands that an entrepreneur who's fully funded, who has access to capital, who has everything that they need to kind of be successful, those are what we would consider the norm. But we also look at problems that face underrepresented groups of people, and we help them to utilize the security blankets that exist within the compliance world to make sure that they're successful. So if you look at Dragseth Law's logo, it says building futures, forging justice. It's because we understand that justice comes from making sure that everybody has a seat at the table. So we're working really hard to assist not only those clients that already have a leg up in the process and are working smoothly, but also some of those other clients that maybe they're having a harder time getting stuff done. We want to be there for them as well.
Right.
I think that if we look at the bottom line, like if we had to say, what's the bottom line of how you differentiate Dragseth Law and how do you differentiate Valseth Enterprises from other companies? To me, the bottom line is we're proactive, rather than reactive. And I think that that is so important because the speed of business has increased incrementally. What used to take a company 5 days or 10 days to do can be accomplished in 1 day with the use of AI. So we have to be proactive. You need to start thinking about what are the potential pitfalls that I'm going to be facing in the future? And then what can I do to make sure that I don't fall into or fall off of that cliff? So we're being proactive in assisting our clients on their day-to-day operational basis so that they can then be successful in the business world. And for us, the greatest success for Valseth Enterprises is that our clients are successful, because if you do well, we do well, because then you're going to send the next up and coming startup entrepreneur to us to say, hey, these people helped me grow. They made sure that whatever I was doing was compliant with whatever I needed to do. And they came around and provided those wraparound services that are really necessary to see somebody grow. I think that we still work on complex legal matters. We still work on complex, different kind of compliance issues as well, but we're not going to exclude the little guy from the process. So
Correct.
we do for the largest company to the smallest company as best we can. So with that, we're going to wrap up our podcast for today, reminding everyone that if you want to engage with us, please reach out to us through www.valsethenterprises.com.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.